you for joining me. This is our last workshop for Workshop Wednesday for the Spring 2020 semester. So thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you find today's information useful. Today's topic is Refuel, Recharge, Take a Study Break. And this topic is very appropriate as we're quickly approaching finals week. We're almost towards the end of the semester. You've done it, congratulate yourself, pat yourself on the back because you've come this far. I know it hasn't been easy. It hasn't been easy from the many students I speak to on a daily basis, but know that together we're getting through this, and hopefully soon we'll be able to see each other in person. But in the meantime, I hope you find this workshop helpful. As I mentioned, today's topic is Refuel, Recharge, Take a Study Break. So first I want to talk about stress. Stress that we have been feeling. Some of you have been feeling at higher levels, others at more moderate levels, but stress is among us. And especially with college students, we see very high levels of stress. So what exactly causes stress? Too much stress can interfere with preparation, concentration, and performance. When students are very stressed out, it manifests in each individual differently. Stress can lead to avoidance, poor performance, too high or too low expectations for yourself, and it interferes with your ability to process information. And in order to deal with stress, it is important to accomplish one task a day. And I always like to share a video that I really enjoy. I encourage you to look it up on YouTube. It's Start Each Day with Completing a Task by former U.S. Navy Admiral William McRaven. I encourage you to look his video up, and he encourages individuals to complete one task every day. He encourages individuals to make their bed every day, because even if they've had a really bad day, they can come home to a made bed, and that will give them an overall, it will make them feel better and give them a sense of comfort and just overall well-being. So first, let's go into stress. Underlying issues tend to surface and are exacerbated during times of stress. Right now we've seen, and I've heard from students, they are at a maximum level of stress. This can be caused, by finances, unemployment. Students are unemployed, their parents are unemployed. Exams, this online remote environment, schoolwork, tuition, relationships, self-esteem, grades, exams, all of those can exacerbate our feelings of stress. In terms of dealing with stress, know what your physical and emotional limits are. Your limitations, what is too much for you, what can you control, and don't overextend yourself. Don't be that person that always says yes, 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 when you know that you're stretching yourself very thin. In addition, identify the causes of your stress. In other words, what are the triggers? Is it, right now being in shelter in place, being in our home where we can't go out, we can't distract ourselves by going to the movies, hanging out with friends at a coffee shop, things that we were used to. Identify what are some alternatives that you can do to deal with your stress. In addition, utilize techniques to reduce your stress. And although there's not one technique that will help all students, because we're all very different and unique in how we deal with our stress, I want to share with you some strategies that I think could be helpful. As we approach finals week, in a couple of weeks, before you know it, in the blink of an eye, finals will be upon us, I want to encourage you to practice some of these tips for preparing for your finals. The most important thing is to prioritize. What is the most important thing? It's like creating a list of, okay, this is the most important out of all of these things that I need to do, and I'm going to focus most of my time and energy on completing this task. So it's about creating a list and prioritizing what needs to get done. Also, I would encourage everyone, and I always do, to talk to your instructors. Sometimes students will email me, I'm not sure what my grade is. And, I always respond to them, well, ask your instructor, because, whether they're using Canvas or maybe an Excel sheet, whatever system they're using to track your grade, they should be able to let you know what your grade is at that point. So make sure you always communicate with your instructors. If you're having, any type of issue, mental health, technology issue, so that they can support you. As an academic counselor, I'm here to support students, and I know instructors are there as well. So make sure you reach out to them, because just like you, they have children, maybe they're also feeling stressed, overwhelmed. This whole virtual remote learning and teaching and learning is new, and we're still getting used to it. Although maybe we're going into our 5th or 6th week of shelter in place, it is still new and it is changing every day. Know what materials will be covered. So as you're preparing for your finals, make sure you email your instructor, talk to your classmates, so that you are, it's not like, oh my gosh, I have to study 18 weeks of coursework. Maybe they're only covering the second half of the semester, week 9 through 18. Maybe they're covering week 3 to 10. Who knows? Every instructor is very different in terms of how they format their course and their final exam. But make sure you reach out, so that it doesn't take you by surprise. You're not asking for anything out of this world. You're just asking, what is the material that is going to be covered, so you can best prepare yourself and ultimately obtain the grade that you've worked for in the course. Also, a good tip as you prepare for your finals is to look at previous exams. The previous exams, the instructor is not going to do something, pull out something out of nowhere, and just a final that no one knows what the concepts, he's never talked about them or she's never talked about them, and it's completely out of the blue. No, for the most part, instructors, if you've had a couple of exams, most likely the final will follow that same pattern, whether it's fill in the blank, multiple choice, essay questions. We're creatures of habit, and if something works, we stick to it. So make sure you look at previous exams, so you can get an idea of how the exam will be structured and the types of questions that will be asked. In addition, if you are struggling, creating a study plan, you don't understand certain concepts of the course, information that was given, make sure you reach out for help. We have SI supplemental instructors available through the Panther Learning Lab. We have tutoring. So even though we're in this virtual online environment, resources are still available for our Hartnell College students, and tutoring is one of them. Do not be afraid to seek out tutoring, because you don't have to do it alone. I've never done it alone. I've reached out for help, whether it's from my instructors, people that I trusted, to going to tutoring, and it can make the world of a difference. So don't be afraid to reach out. Don't think, oh, because we're in this remote learning, I'm sure they don't have tutors available. No, on the contrary, we have tutoring service available through the Panther Learning Lab. So, they can work with you to make sure that, as we reach the final stretch, that you can, end with the grade that you want, the grade that you've worked for. So don't feel like, oh, resources, support is not available for me. In addition, use study groups. Study groups are a great way. Through Zoom, you can have break out into different rooms, sessions. So, maybe there's 5 of you that get together in a Zoom meeting. You organize the meeting, and then, 2 of you break out into different rooms to study different topics, and then you come back together to the main meeting and discuss what you've learned, because yes, we can study ourselves, but we learn more and process more information when we learn and teach each other. So that's the beauty of study groups, that just as you're teaching, you're also learning, and that reinforces, your understanding of the material. As well as, and I think this is more as you look into your future courses, the registration for the fall semester is coming up very quickly in a couple of weeks. Talk to other students that have taken the course. If you have friends that have already taken the course, talk to them about any tips, information that they can share with you. Or as you're planning your future courses, maybe you have friends that have already taken the course, and they can give you some insight into the coursework, the material, how to best prepare for the course, and ultimately the exam, so that you can receive the grade that you want and that you've worked for. So those are some tips for preparing for your exams. Now that we've identified some causes of stress and how you can prepare for your final exams, now let's review some ways you can decrease your stress. So the most important way you can decrease your stress is by getting enough sleep. This is so critical to making sure that you feel rested, refuel, refreshed, re-energized to take the next day's tasks and the things that you need to accomplish. So very important to make sure you get enough sleep. In addition, to eat healthfully, so that you eat healthy, fueling meals, such as, make sure you have a good breakfast, a good lunch, that you drink enough water, that you keep yourself hydrated. Be active. This is very important right now. I know we are in shelter in place, and we can gather with our friends at a coffee shop, go to the movies, do things that we used to do, but we can still find ways to be active. You can maybe drive to a beach and take a walk there. You can go hiking, you can find some trails, all while maintaining, of course, social distance, protecting yourself, wearing a face mask. But make sure you stay active. In the beginning of this shelter in place, I would just go up and down my stairs like 60, 70 times, up and down, up and down. And let me tell you, that was a workout. And just here inside my home, I would go up and down. So there are ways that you can, still make sure that you're staying active, because exercise is the best medicine, the best treatment for any type of, stress, anxiety, depression, whatever it is that we may be feeling. Movement is the best medicine. Also, decrease your stress by learning how to say no. I know it may be difficult. We're used to, pleasing others, being the yes man, the yes girl, the yes woman. And, it is important for us to have boundaries, establish healthy boundaries, so that people know, and it's mainly for ourselves, that we learn to say no, that we don't overcommit ourselves, because our mental health, our overall well-being is most important to us, and we want to make sure that we're the best version of ourselves. And when we stretch ourselves thin, we overcommit, we say yes to everything and everyone, that's not being the best version of ourselves. We want to be helpful, of course, but we also have to realize that we have to take care of ourselves and make sure that we are well, so that we can be helpful to others. And that includes, being able to sleep, being rested, eating healthy meals, drinking water, keeping ourselves active. In addition, avoiding the use of alcohol and drugs. Sometimes when we are stressed, sometimes people can resort to drugs, alcohol use as a way to relax, but that is contrary to, it's against what they are feeling, so you want to make sure you avoid the use of drugs and alcohol when you are feeling stressed, because the stress will still be there. You're only numbing it, suppressing it, trying to avoid it, but once you're out of that situation of, 2 drinks that you've had of alcohol or drug consumption, the stress will still be there, because avoiding our problems does not get rid of them. They continue to be there. In addition, get time away or alone. Take a walk by yourself. Just listen to music. Do things that bring you joy and happiness. Spend 3 to 5 minutes not doing anything, just laying on the floor, listening to, the cars, the wind, the birds. You might surprise yourself that, we're always used to like go, 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 go. And I think this shelter in place has really shocked so many of us, because we've come to realize, we don't need to be always go, 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 go from point A to point B to point C. And, we feel like, oh, we don't have enough time. Now we have all the time of the world. Of course, we're still working, going about our daily lives, but take a moment just to say like, oh, every day from 2 to 2:05, 5 minutes, I'm just going to lay flat on the floor and just take a moment to breathe and just enjoy, just be in the present moment, in the here and now. In addition, make sure you write down everything that you feel you need to accomplish for the day. And you want to make sure that your list is not, oh, I need to accomplish these 20 things. No, the most important things in terms of, your academics and your overall well-being. Okay, I need to focus on my US history class. I need to focus on math. Okay, those are the priorities for today. And then make sure you incorporate into that, your nutrition, your exercise, because all of that, encompasses your feeling well and reducing your stress levels. And I would also encourage you to practice power postures. Power postures will stand with your hands right next to your waist, extend your arms up in the air, and those are power postures. They're meant to make you feel good, that you're in control of the situation. And sometimes when I do them in my class, students laugh and they feel a little bit awkward because we're doing them all together in the class, but you don't have to do it in front of anyone. You just do it in the comfort of your home, in your room, in your garage, wherever you find yourself. Practice those power postures, and it has something to do with the way you're standing, breathing. Always make sure you're breathing, you're taking deep breaths, not short agitated breaths, but long deep breaths, so that you can feel more in control of your situation. Because right now there's a lot of things we can't control, but we can control how our thoughts and how we feel about ourselves, and that's something that we can practice a lot with deep breathing. As you prepare for your finals, I know sometimes, even when I was a college student, in my days, students would say, oh my gosh, I'm going to pull an all-nighter, study all night for the final, the day before, 2-3 days before, just cramming. I would call it, I don't think about it pulling an all-nighter. It's just intense cramming sessions. And the truth about all-nighters is that all-nighters only allow you to function at 50 to 70% of your capability the next day. All-nighters can set you up for panic, misreading test questions, and blanking out. I would often hear that. When I was preparing for my finals, I would prepare myself three weeks ahead before the final exam, and the night before I would not study at all for that particular exam, because I felt at that moment it's already going to be panic studying, and I don't want to do that because I've prepared myself weeks before, and I just want to make sure I get a good night rest. But as I would be walking to the lecture where we would have the midterm or the final exam, I would see students there with their cards, like massive, like trying to study, cram, everything. And I would always think, wow, I know myself. And that's why it's so important to know yourself. I know I can't do that, because if I do that, just try to cram everything, I wouldn't even look at my flashcards, because I would always do flashcards. I would not even look at them before the exam, the night before, because I felt like then in my mind I'm going to get everything confused. And I would see the students just go through one flashcard after another. And I would think, wow, I wonder how much they really are able to retain when the final exam comes. I mean, minutes later. That's a strategy that never worked for me. And along with pulling all-nighters, all-nighters mean that you're sleep deprived. You haven't slept, you're running on very low amount of gasoline, if any. So some of the short-term effects of sleep deprivation include poor concentration and shortened attention span, decreased ability to retain information. So we think we're cramming in all of this information, but in reality, it's really doing the opposite. We're decreasing our ability to retain information. We lose our ability to read others' emotions properly. So, that's something that, maybe that day we saw someone we knew and they didn't wave to us, but we're already making up stories in our mind that they don't like us, that there was some type of fallout or situation, when, it's just, sometimes we walk past people and we think we see them, but we're not really paying attention. That actually happens to me quite a bit. I'm just thinking about other things. And, when you're sleep deprived, you're not able to function at your best. You're not able to process information at your best, because I always think of it like when you're sleep deprived, it's almost like if you're under the influence, because you can't make the best decisions. In addition, sleep deprivation, some of the short-term effects, lack of controlling your own emotions, and a weakened immune system. You're if you think of a car, you're already like at the last line, it's empty. You're trying to push, and eventually the car is going to just stop because it's run out of gas. And the same with our bodies. It weakens our immune system. When everything is said and done, everything's over, what happens? A lot of students crash. They get really sick with flu-like symptoms, because they've just been pushing, and eventually, just like everything, just like cars, our bodies, they come to a stop and they remind us, you can't just keep going and going. Eventually the car is going to give out. Eventually our body is going to give out. Some of the long-term effects with sleep deprivation, it alters and imbalances hormones associated with hunger. So maybe eating too much, eating too little. It reduces your ability to learn. It increases the likelihood of anxiety disorders. So, overthinking the situations, worrying too much about things that are to come, all of that can lead to anxiety, weight gain, and it also long-term effects of sleep deprivation. It increases the risk of diabetes, kidney failure, heart disease, and stroke. So those are all things that, we don't want to avoid, a stroke, kidney failure, diabetes, heart disease. Those are not good things. Those are not, if we can avoid those things, through exercise, mindfulness, getting enough sleep. Those are things those are habits that we want to adapt or adopt in our life so that we can be the best version of ourselves. Some common sleep deprivation symptoms include fatigue, mood changes, difficulty concentrating. You're like, oh my gosh, but I studied all last night for the exam. Like, why is it that I blinked out right now? Because you just crammed. It's not long-term learning. It's very short, and it won't lead to success. Also, memory problems are some symptoms associated with sleep deprivation, paranoia, hallucinations. If you are sleep deprived for days, weeks at a time, ultimately, yes, it can lead to paranoia and hallucinations because you're not able to make decisions accurately. Like I said, if you're sleep deprived and you go out and drive a car, I would say it's very similar to being under the influence because, you're not able to, you're not alert, if something approaches, like if a deer runs right across in front of your car, your reflexes are slower. So those are some of the common sleep deprivation symptoms. What are some of the things that you can do right before your exam? So we talked about, you don't want to cram, you want to make sure you get a good night's sleep. So right before your exam, make sure you get about 6 to 8 hours preferably of sleep, restful sleep, so that you can, feel rested, feel re-energized, refueled, ready to take on this final exam. Make sure you eat and drink something healthy. A Red Bull, Monster drink, an energy drink in the morning is not a healthy drink. You want to make sure that you eat a nutritious meal in the morning, something that will give you energy. And although some people might say, well, the energy drinks, they give me energy, it's really a crash and burn after. So it's only very short-lived, the energy that you might feel, but you want to make sure that you eat healthy and nutritious meals like eggs, oatmeal, whatever it is for you. Every individual is different. Tofu, whatever it may be for you, but that you eat nutritious and healthy meals that will give you long-term energy, not something that, yes, in that moment you will be alert and awake, but afterwards, you will crash and burn. You'll have that feeling like, oh my gosh, complete exhaustion. You want to practice deep breathing. And like I said, you don't want to practice short and agitated breaths, but rather deep and long breaths. And if you're able to hold them, breathe in, hold, and then release. And those are techniques that you want to practice to make sure that right before the exam, you're getting a lot of oxygen into your brain, into your head, and you're able to process the information, read the questions clearly, answer correctly. If you're into that as well, you can meditate if that's something that you're into. And if you've never explored that, I invite you to look up YouTube videos, do a Google search on meditation, and that's a new possibility that I bring to you. You can also talk to a friend, practice light exercise, taking a walk, practicing some yoga postures, whatever it is for you, that consists of light exercise, engage in that before you take your exam, especially if you're going to be sitting for 2-3 hours at a time. That would be really good to get your blood pumping through your body. And most importantly of all, relax. Know within yourself, and repeat to yourself, I have prepared myself for this exam. I have studied. I have studied 3 weeks. I began studying 3 weeks ago. I am prepared for this exam. I know the content. I will do my best. I will not rush. I will take my time. Because also sometimes students get stressed out, or they're like, oh my gosh, an hour into the exam and already some students are leaving, and I'm out barely just in like question 10, and you still have like 20-30 more questions to go. Don't worry about other people, only focus on yourself. Worry about yourself and take the time. I would be one of those that I would take the entire time. I would be one of the last ones to go, because I wanted to make sure that I didn't feel rushed. I took the time to make sure to read and write my questions, because my exams were usually multiple choice, key terms, and then essay questions. So and because they were handwritten, I would, my hand would start to cramp. So I would give myself, okay, let me rest my hand for 1 to 2 minutes and then continue on. So those are some things that I invite you to do. Practicing deep breathing is so important, because deep breathing can help increase blood circulation and deliver more oxygen to your brain. As you gain more control of your breath, you also increase your lung capacity, which can increase your mental alertness and focus. So deep breathing is so critical for preparing and executing a midterm, a final exam, a job interview, whatever it is that you have to do that can create stress for you, where you feel overwhelmed. Practice deep breathing. And like I said, hold your breath, take deep breaths, hold them, and then release. And if you don't know how to do it, the beautiful thing is that there applications now exist that help you with that. One that I invite you to look up is Breathe to Relax. It's a phone application. I know I have it on my phone. Once again, it's called Breathe, and then the number 2, relax, and then breathe, the number 2, and then the word relax. So look up that application, and there it's very nice, because it has like a waterfall with bird sounds, and then it depends on how many sets you want to do of deep breathing, and it tells you inhale, and you inhale, hold, slowly exhale, and you can do that 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, however much you want. So this is a really good application if you're new to the practice of deep breathing, or if you just want to be more guided in terms of your deep breathing exercises. I invite you to look up this application on your smartphone. Like I said, it's called Breathe to Relax, and it's really good. I use it quite often. I have it, like I said, I have it on my phone, and I would encourage you to do the same. And ultimately, I want to remind you that nothing worth having comes easy. We have to prepare ourselves for our final exams. We have to study maybe 1, 2, 3 weeks ahead of time. We each have to know ourselves, what we're able to do, what grades we want to earn in our classes. And I really like this quote from Nelson Mandela. It always seems impossible until it's done. It might seem like overwhelming, like, oh my gosh, I just want the semester to be over. Before you know it, the semester will be over. We don't know how things will look this summer in terms of shelter in place, social distancing, what that will look like. But make sure you push through these last couple of weeks. These are so critical. I know we feel like tired, burnt out, especially with this shelter in place, not being able to go out. It just feels overwhelming. But just know that this too shall pass. This will pass, and before you know it, and you just want to make sure you take advantage these 18 weeks that you're about to conclude, that they have a purpose, that you gave it your all, and that ultimately you got the grades that you wanted, that you worked for, and that you strived for. So without further ado, I want to thank you so much for joining me this spring semester for our Workshop Wednesday series. Like I said, we don't know what the fall semester will look like. We have to take it day by day, week by week. But whether we're able to be face to face, which is my hope for us, that we're able to see each other in person, we'll continue with a new series of Workshop Wednesdays. But if we have to be in the remote virtual learning environment as well, we will also be offering these online. So I hope that you continue to join me, support me. This video will be posted on YouTube, so I hope that you subscribe to my channel, that you like the video, and please make sure to share it with other individuals, students that you feel might benefit from this information. Without further ado, thank you so much for joining me, and have a wonderful rest of your week.